as time went on, I knew that I had to get in a better place. 15 years ago, I wasn't in a good place. As I said, I had PTSD, I was alcohol dependent, I smoked a lot, I didn't have anywhere to live, that's why I was brought up with Adam. I didn't have a job, I couldn't afford a car. It weren't great, it weren't the best year I've ever had. My health, and I didn't know, was deteriorating internally, which led to me have a stroke later on. That was due to my high anxiety disorder that I've had all through my adult life. I don't know if you know anything about blood pressure, but mine was running at about 220 over 120, which is a bit high. So I was really at a time in my life that it was going to go one way or the other. So luckily, I started to get some positivity back in my life. I met Sarah, which was a massive part of that. That gave me an opportunity to work on that. Got myself a job, went back to my training. Training has been a part of my stability all through my life. It controls my mental health issues and it gives me positive things to do in my life. It stops you from drinking and all sorts of stuff. So I got back into training, I started going down the gym. Through going through the gym, I met Annie, and then Adam met Annie, and I met Sarah, and I started to get healthier, and then I started getting back into my martial arts, and then the gym said, will you do some training for us with the kids? Yes, I will. All the positivity started to build. And at the same time, as part of my therapy, if you like, I started to learn about knife crime. I was interested, and what you've got to remember is back then, was just when knife crime was starting to become very, very high profile in the UK. Right? It was just starting to build, wasn't it? So I started to look at knife crime and try and understand why people did it, you know. And I was a very typical middle-aged person who thought I knew about knife crime. And I used to think exactly the same as probably most of the older people in Redditch think. And I used to say the same things. We need longer prison sentences. Yeah? And I'll say this from the off. Do I think people should be punished severely for knife crime? Yeah, I do. Let's get that out there. Right? Anybody who commits a violent crime, they should have the full weight of the law thrown at them. That doesn't always happen, and it certainly didn't happen to our satisfaction in our case. But, okay, so we say, look, we need stricter sentences, we need more legislation, we need to have stronger policing, all this sort of stuff. But then when I started to really talk to young people and find out the real root cause of knife crime, I really found out that all that stuff was sort of secondary. Yeah, it's got a part to play in prevention, yeah, but a lot of the sort of crime-related stuff is all about punishment and deterrence. Deterrence don't really work to the degree you might think they do. So if you've got a young lad who's been threatened by county lines drug dealers and he feels his life is in danger, what's he more scared of? A prison sentence or being attacked by county lines dealers? He's more scared of the dealers. It doesn't matter what the sentence is, that's his priority. I know what that's like. I know what it's like to be that scared. I feel like I've got to protect myself. Okay? So I thought this is really interesting now. I'm talking to these young people. And I started to really change all the focus to young people. Well, why are so many young people carrying knives? Why has there been this big rise in young people carrying knives? So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. First of all, and some of them might sound really silly questions, right? But bear with me. Put your hand up if you think there's a problem in the UK with knife crime. Okay. Put your hand up if you think there's a big problem in the UK with knife crime.
Well, I think there is,
Okay. Put your hand up if you think there's a problem in Redditch with knife crime.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Put your hand up if you think there's a big problem in Redditch with knife crime. Okay, good. I ask this in every assembly I do to get the perception of young people about what they think about knife crime, okay? And the reason is, the number one reason why young people carry knives is not because they're going out drug dealing, that happens. It's not because they're going out trying to hurt people, although that happens. It's fear. The number one reason by a mile is fear, the scare. We've created a culture where our young people are so afraid they feel they've got to carry a weapon for self-protection. Okay? So I'm very defensive about young people. We've got some fantastic young people in our town. I work with them all the time. Young people get a really bad press. So I want to reiterate some of that Richard hit upon. So when I first started looking at it, and people was always talking to me about youth knife crime. Now, youth knife crime was going up. But knife crime for everybody was going up, not just amongst young people. Yeah, it went up 80% over like a 12-year period, not just amongst the young. So I'll give you an example. I don't give out many facts and figures, but I'll give you a few. So last year in the UK, okay, 83% of all knife crime that was dealt with by the criminal justice system, that means someone was either charged or convicted of a knife crime, 83% was committed by an adult.
Really?
Yeah, that means 17% were committed by young people. Now, 17% of a lot is still a lot, yeah? But I get a little bit annoyed when people portray it as just a young person's problem.
Yeah.
Nearly every poster you see about knife crime, and I used to have the same posters, 15-year-old lad, hoodie, knife. That's the perception people have of knife crime. Have we got a problem with knife crime amongst young people? Yes, we have. Has it been growing? Yes, it has. Do we need to reduce it? Yes, we do. But knife crime is a societal problem. It's not just a young person's problem. The vast majority of the real serious types of knife crime, murder, are committed in a kitchen with a kitchen knife, normally in the part of domestic abuse. It is an area that we tend to overlook when we're talking about knife crime. Okay, so we've got to get that out there. But I do specialise in knife crime reduction amongst young people. Not exclusively, but that's mainly what I do. So my assemblies have changed massively over the years. It started off, don't do that because you'll go to prison for a long time. Yeah, it was that sort of approach. Now it's all about fear reduction. So it's educating young people, especially in our area, so they don't feel afraid and then they feel they don't have to carry a weapon. Okay? Yeah. So I call it the circle of fear. Okay? And this approach is becoming adopted everywhere now. So the main root cause of the fear is social media. Okay? The media and social media. We've got a trend going on at the moment with the school wars. I don't know if you've seen that online. But that sort of thing perpetuates fear. So for some years now, the media have created this fear about knife crime. Knife crime as a term was created by social media. Knife crime as a term was not created by the government or the police. It was created by the media as a thing that they could report on and create this monster. Okay? So, knife crime basically means any crime committed with a bladed article. Okay? A knife. So, what happens is this. The young people see knife crime on social media. Every day they're bombarded it. Bop, bop, bop. I Google knife crime UK every day. That's what I do, it's my job. I'm doing it for a reason. Every day I put in there, UK knife crime. And it comes up. Murdered in Birmingham. Stabbed in London. It's just a constant feed. Right? So if you're a young person, you're looking at all this stuff coming through, and your brain is saying, murders and knife crimes happening all the time, I'm in fear, I know what I'll do, I'll carry one of these, okay? But what they don't understand is two things. Most of the stuff they see is out of area. We have a relatively low level of knife crime in Redditch, certainly compared to Birmingham, 15 miles up the road. And secondly, my advice is, the worst thing you can possibly do as a self-defence instructor to keep yourself safe is to carry a weapon. Not only does it not work, it has the polar effect. And I'll give you a little fact that always blows my mind. I haven't got the figure for last year, but 2024, 7 out of 10 young people that ended up in A&E with a wound off a bladed article were injured with their own weapon. And this is predominantly young people that are carrying a weapon for self-protection. So that's the irony or stupidity of carrying weapons. It just doesn't work. We have young people with knives, they fall over on them. There was one lad in Birmingham running for the bus with a Rambo knife in his tracksuit bottoms, fell over, severed his femoral artery. It was an accident. We had another lad, only a really young lad, took an axe into school. Really nice kid, no intention of hurting anybody, but he got a small axe out of his shed, wanted to show his mates, put it in his rucksack, took it to school, opened his rucksack, break time, look what I've got lads, put his hand in and grabbed the blade. If you're going to walk around with something sharp and stabby, guess what? Somebody at some point can get hurt. Right? So getting that education across that this isn't going to keep you safe, it puts you in more danger, is really, really important. Okay? The number one crime committed by young people is not stabbing people, it is possession. We've got lots of young people that carry knives with no intention of using it, they're just carrying it because they're scared. When people, I had an argument not so long ago, it was a debate, and some guy was saying to me, anybody gets arrested carrying a knife, any age, immediately 5-year prison sentence. And I said it to him, I said, everybody, no exception, anybody caught carrying a knife, 5 years in prison. Without exception. Yeah, I told you. Anybody carrying a knife should go to prison for 5 years. So I can ask you once more. Anybody? Yes, anybody. Okay. So when X brought your niece to me for carrying a weapon, she should have gone to prison for 5 years. No, because she's only 13 and she's got autism. Hang on a minute, 3 times you said to me, anybody carrying a weapon. Now you're backtracking. This is how complex it can be. Let's start judging people as people and not as a statistic. Because everybody is completely different as a human being. And different people have got different reasons for carrying a weapon. And it doesn't mean they're bad people, they might just have done a bad thing. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So fear reduction is a massive way of us all being able to quite easily reduce knife crime amongst young people. Got it? Yeah. Let's give you some figures. Right, let's have a little quiz. To the nearest couple of thousand, you can't answer this, Richard Field. On average, roughly, and I won't be too strict with it, show of hands, or I'm treating you like an assembly now. Put your hands up before you answer, miss. How many knife crimes on average do we have in the UK every year? Give us a figure. Just for fun, even if you're miles out, it don't matter. Just a starting point.
300,000.
Good, 300,000. Any advances or it's like an auction? Higher or lower? Anybody, someone give me a figure.
No, 20,000.
20,000, okay. Hey?
12,000.
12,000, anybody else? Couple more, need 2 more. So we've got a spread. Anything will do?
50,000.
50,000?
100,000.
100,000, right. So we've had anywhere between...
300,000.
Yeah, we've had anywhere between 10,000 and 300,000. And that's the sort of answer I get in a school.
Well, I don't know, do I?
Right? You're all guessing, aren't you? None of you know. You had a good guess, because it's about 50,000. So I'll give you that, okay? But when you ask a school assembly, they have no perception of any real figures on this. They just say there's a lot, okay? Now 50,000 is a lot. That's about 1,000 a week, isn't it? Or my maths, right? So it is a lot of crime. How many, so it gets interesting now, so how many of that 50,000 result in someone having to go to hospital? That's interesting, isn't it? Let's have some numbers. 10,000?
35,000.
35,000? 1,000? 25,000? Okay, so it's just over 3,000, about 3,300 last year. So 50,000 knife crimes. Between 3,000 and 3,500 people a year go to A&E with a stab wound. Right, it's too many, I'm not saying that. But when you hear 50,000 keep being sort of spouted on the news, as soon as you hear 50,000 knife crimes, you think 50,000 deaths or 50,000 stabbings. It is far from the truth. Yeah, my barber the other week was insistent that 50,000 people a year were being murdered by knife crime in the UK. And I had to get Google up so he could read it properly. There's really not. It's just over 3,000. Between 3,000 and 3,500. Okay, last question. So we'll say 3,500. How many result in fatalities, deaths? 300. Okay.
50.
50.
75.
70, that's a very specific number. Anybody else? 100. Again, very, very varied. So over the last 17 years, okay, the average number of fatalities in this country is 233. Every one represents a life lost and a community affected. One is too many. But now we've got this perception of 50,000 deaths a year. It's a lot less, isn't it? Okay? Put your hand up if you're aware of the knife crime reductions over the last 2 years. Is anybody aware of that?